Olofin, Bobaraunu, Apoto Adechina, Tiyoko Wangbocha Yailatuan, Ibae, Mama Selina Sabam Serrat Ibae, Ochagweye, Ogunike, Obabeabo, Obatero, Ibae, Ibae Obailu, Ibae Banguala Sala Koye, Ogunfuncho, Obaniwe Ibae, Ibae Oyato Sumuyanike, Oyagade, Ibae Changodina, Obadina, Obatero, Babiabo, Ibae trupo paraífio salobeyo gundaba te maco perito chicken tanque. Ibae ochunka.
You were with Nana Denny Zulu. Yeah, and Lucumi was playing there too. And Lil was dancing. And Sarah and Elaine Bina. She used to dance with.
You mean with Dennis Zulu? Oh, yeah. And Elaine should be there, Elaine Bina.
Yes, it was Elaine Bina, Lillian, and Sarah.
Okay, and there's another girl, Miriam.
But no,
Miriam
it was just the three of them.
I tried to make contact with Miriam. She made Shango many years ago.
Right, with Pancho's wife.
Yeah, she should be about at least 40,
Miriam Greaves. She made Shango with Pancho's wife. With yeah. I used to call her now and then I called her. Who? What was it? What was her name? It started with an M. Melta.
Yeah, she passed. I have Leo inherited her muscle for Oya when he gave it to you. That's that big muscle on my Oya.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, from Melta. That big heavy one.
Which somehow disappeared. We never knew about it. The Haitian guy took the money.
Haitian.
And bought, put a down payment on a house. Oh, what is his name? I can see his face.
The Haitian guy?
The Haitian guy.
I know he's talking about the name will come.
On the left hand side, that picture with Bay, that's when they gave the African celebration at Radnall's Island. And I have a picture of you with Obalaji Drummond.
Oh.
I think you were going to check for that.
Probably.
I have the photos from when we went to the airport to meet the King of Burundi.
Oh, okay.
And
was I there?
yeah.
Yeah. So most of that stuff, like, I forgot.
And I think it was Miriam, Sarah, and Lillian were dancing.
Father Chero was a non-drumming guy. Don't tell him that.
I saw Ayoko on the bus.
Don't tell him that. You know what I mean? Don't tell him that. A lot of arguments with that guy. After a while, he gave up. When Ira, myself, Joe came on the scene, Tommy, we just dominated him like, come on, man. After a while, he just gave up the drumming, you know.
Right here. And next to him is Black Michael, Amon Ra.
Oh, Michael could dance.
Amon Ra. Yes, he did the Watusi.
Yeah. Unbelievable dance.
Right. I never remember everybody's last name. Just
yeah, you never knew the last name. She never knew people's last name. Knew first name, right?
You got a place?
Yeah, but I would want to talk. She paid.
Bay, because that's a really, yeah,
They
follow
started
me
the
die.
company in what, 74, something like that. Started the company.
Well, before the company, we had Edward Ife.
Yeah, that was 1950. You know, I still have the doctor from that.
Okay.
You know, the paperwork.
Right.
That was 1958.
And before that, you had Egber Wanago.
Right.
Long
That's
before that.
Right. Edwin Nago, that's the political organization that Serge put together.
Well, that was my brother's dance company. He's the one who divined the name, Edwin Nago. They were in high school. And that's the forerunner of the new generation of dance.
So that must have been like 1960, something like that?
Maybe 58.
Yeah,
58 around
58.
that time.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that was doing
Yeah, it's 13.
Jimmy Campbell comes out of that. James Campbell. Quite a lot of people went on to different orishas in their religion.
Yeah, it's a long way from all airplanes. That was my beginning. All airplanes and trains and boats. I was all up in there.
Do you
You could go
remember?
and I could go.
Do you remember some of the brothers that are not around anymore that were drummers? You know, that moved out of New York and to other places. Do you remember them?
That were in religion.
Yeah. Well, in the drummers that were drummers.
More West African drummers. But we evolved into Jamaica drumming at that time.
Mhm.
You guys. I don't remember that.
Okay, can I answer? Okay, before djembe, kunga drums.
Yeah, that's
You're
what
talking
you made.
before, along with Chief Bey. You're talking Danny Barahanis.
Right.
You're talking Big Black. You're talking
Right.
Montego Joe. You're talking
Bobby Crowder,
Bobby Crowder. You're talking Garvin LaShaw. You're talking
Sonny Morgan,
Sonny
Sonny
Morgan,
Morgan.
Richie Landrum.
Richie Landrum, Ray McKeithen,
Right.
Carl.
Hey, Carl,
Yep.
Bobby
Oh,
Crowder
boy.
out of the building.
You're talking also Tashon Gomez, plays Bata.
Polito?
No, not
No,
Palomito, Coyas.
What's
That's
his
behind
name?
the barn, please.
Eugene Golden.
Yeah.
You're talking
Yeah.
about there's about 15 other guys.
Yeah.
I mean, not in religion, but drummers.
Drummers.
Before djembe came on the scene. Black drummers. More Cuban than the Cuban. The leading of the pack of that is people like Ty Wolf. You had another one named Kahinde. Kahinde. People that, I associated with. There's about at least 10 other guys. I mean, drummers. Out of Jersey came the soloist for Olatunji. Stacey Adams. These are people going back before djembe came on the scene. Cuban music, rumbas, abacoa, toque de santos, shake it ready, that kind of thing.
What is the brother's name?
A drummer?
Yeah,
Oh,
is it old Tunji's company? Ralph Dorsey,
Rock Dorsey, yeah.
Stacey Edwards.
Yeah,
My son used to roadie for Alabama.
Stacey Adams,
And Lawrence. Who's that Lawrence?
No, that's Serge.
That's
Serge and Obalumi. Obalumi in Philly.
That's who's from. Sure. That's who's from. How's he from? Started the Shoe Festival in Philly.
Okay, yeah. See there.
Oh, this call.
Oh, yeah?
That's cool. Okay. That's that one.
Carl Vale.
Yeah,
Hell of a drummer.
right?
You're talking about Joe Nicholas and Ira Johnson.
Oh, that's
Fella? Little
Yeah.
Ira.
That's I ain't got my seeing glasses on. That's Armin Rock. This is called.
Ira was one of my clients.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
What was on with?
Hell of a drummer. And he had a brother that was very good. His younger brother.
I'm in Rising, Virginia.
Oh, yeah?
That book must be on print for us.
Yeah. This is Lillian, my good sister. sings jazz. That's Sarah, baby.
Sarah. Who's Sarah? Photo Wolf.
Photo Wolf.
Yeah,
Photo Wolf.
I know about.
And you see Emran Ricochet. Yeah. And Russell is in here somewhere.
Oh, yeah?
On the top picture.
Wow.
Because the top picture was taken, I think, if it wasn't at the African door, it was the place above the African door. Dambalawela.
Dambalawela, yeah.
That's where I
That's the
first met.
Haitian priest that you're.
Talking about.
Yeah.
You know, it's very interesting that you bring up the Dambalawela. That Dambalawela comes after, let's say, 1958, maybe 1957. Serge comes back from Europe, having danced with Catherine Dunham and that whole crew. And he was full of energy. He wanted to start something. So he opened a restaurant on East 5th Street, I think. And you could go down, he called it the Bawani Table. You remember? And
Was Ed used to go there?
Yeah.
Ed James?
Yeah, well, we all went.
Yeah. Chris
Iyalosha and so forth. And he changed the name from Bawani Table to another name. I forget what it was, but apparently it would offend the Indians if they had to have that name used on a restaurant. And when he opened that restaurant, it was like a coffee house, serving desserts and coffee. Mostly, that was what it was doing. And we were meeting there, coming down and having a lot of discussions. And it was put to her at Serge, how is it that you can have in the middle of East Village talking about African culture, et cetera, when in actuality you're down here in a non-African neighborhood. And that's when Serge made its mind up to get rid of the restaurant and move uptown. And I don't know if we moved to 116th Street or 25th.
125th.
125th, right off between Park and Madison, upstairs, painted place up, all white. And Serge made a transformation in the sense that he wanted to be a person who was like a king of
Well, the last name is King anyway, so.
Yes, indeed. And he attracted a man by the name of Chris Oleana, who knew something about the African religion from the point of view of the Cuban interpretation, divination, and so forth. After several movements from one place on 125th Street to Dambalawela, as we were seriously into the concept of the snake eating its own tail, and he had these little copper discs which said Dambalawela. We moved then to 119th Street, right on the corner.
119.
Corner, yes.
For a while.
And during this period of time, Chris Oleana became more and more important and began to affect the change of Serge's consciousness about which side he wanted to be on, and he came down on the Yoruba side of things. And there was Chris Oleana had the ability to work with the use of sacrifice. And we had on 125th Street, I'll never forget it, the Haitian influence was also present because he was attracting people who knew something about African religion. And Chris Oleana and this Haitian chief had a chicken, a rooster. And they put the rooster down and they said the one who could make this rooster become a sacrifice, that's the one who's going to, that's the way we're going to go. That's the direction we choose. And they stroked this rooster, and the rooster didn't want to be calm for the Haitian guy, but he was calm for Oleana. And that was when the rooster was sacrificed, and we all became Yoruba instead of the other way, you know, with Babaloshas. I'll never forget that time. It was quite something. A number of things that happened. Eventually, 119th Street and Lenox Avenue was our last hurrah, you might say. And Serge was then made up his mind. He wanted to take everything and go down south and open.
No, the temple was 116th Street, between Lenox and Fifth. Yoruba temple? On the second floor.
I remember that temple.
From 119, they moved
So
to
it's 116th Street.
Oh, is that how it went?
And
So
then
how many
he
temples
stayed there
was
for
it?
years and years and years, and then he finally moved south, as he said, he believed in separation.
Don't forget the little temple on Fifth Avenue, just off of where, like, Fifth Avenue comes again.
If you pass the park.
Yeah, just off of Mount Morris Park.
Mount
That's
Morris.
Dayton, what I'm calling it. It's calling something else now. But I remember that little
Yeah,
temple
that's
too.
the one
Yeah, I
I was
remember
talking
that.
about,
Mhm.
on Fifth Avenue.
When they had the Elijah party and Mama KK was there.
I remember one day we came out of that place and there was a gang war on the outside. Do you remember that gang war? That we were shooting at each other with zip guns. We had to run back.
I heard about it, but I know you all were protected, and that was like part of the proof.
Yeah,
Because they were having a war, but nobody was hurt.
that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Amazing.
So how many Yoruba temples were there altogether?
When the one on Fifth,
You mean where? Where?
At least
In New York and Harlem?
twice on 25th Street.
and
At
then,
least three,
what,
four.
briefly 119th Street?
Briefly and then.
And then 116th Street before he went south.
Mm-hmm.
Four.
For, so,
Serge made quite an impression. It was at that time, before, I think he went down with Chris Oleana in 1960 for his initiation. He was initiated. And then I went down with him and Chris, and I was initiated, and Serge was my Ajibona. And when I came back, before I came back, Chris Oleana had a falling out with my padrino. And my padrino told me that when I go back to New York, don't have anything to do with Chris Oleana. Chrissy is mucho mal. He'll never forget that. He kept impressing him. Don't have anything to do with it. And Chris had been a son, an initiate of Oguniobi, who was a very famous padrino in Matanzas. He was also a tata. A tata and had been scratched.
Well, you know, do you remember anything about this? Because all of this is very interesting. One thing is that they were made in 58 as twins, am I right? And then in 59, he took you to Havana in September. Then the next thing that I heard was that they had, Serge, Oleana went in the Serge temple, and I think it was 116th Street.
Please let me do this.
And he said, is it that there can only be one bright shining light in this temple? And Serge told him yes. And Oleana didn't come back to the temple anymore. Yeah. And when they took you to the river, were the soldiers there? Because the Castro's soldiers, the people that were made in '59, Castro's soldiers were at the river. And if Santeros had to tell what is going on, they said, Santeros at work. And once that was said, those people receded. That's what, you know, the hearsay from the old folks.
Ed James was supposed to be what Ed James was supposed to be given to Ogunia B. That was the tradition. Your first made initiate. That. But Ed took Chris took Ed to Havana to make it, and that's where that split up came as a result of that. That's what I was talking about. There's a lot of stories that occurred as a result of American black people becoming involved in acquiring the initiatory experience and the religion, and many people who were at my initiation, who were Cubans originally, have come to this country and have told me personally they were at my initiation. My initiation was done apparently the old Cuban way. You take the Iyalosha, take you out from the room that you had, you're in this dark room, take you out, you're presented to the Bata after 3 days, and then they take you back. They're in another section, and you can hear them partying on back, drinking and singing and so forth. I didn't know any of those people, but there was a crowd. There must have been at least 300 people that had come from every direction to see the American being initiated.
You initiated in Havana?
No, Matanzas, in the hills of Matanzas.
Something was named on Wanamakor.
Who?
Something.
Yeah, we're at Lala's house. I went there.
Oh, you went there?
When I went to Cuba, because she didn't have her, Madrina didn't have her Ita. She had her letters, but she didn't have the Ita book. So when I was going to Cuba in 1980, I told her, and she was like, you have to go see Lala. You have to go see Lala. So I was like, okay, I'm going to see my family, but I don't speak Spanish. So I'm in Cuba, and she said Wanabacoa. She didn't have an address, she didn't have anything. So I'm in Cuba, and from the time I got there, I'm like, I want to go to Wanabacoa. I want to go to Wanabacoa. I want to go. And everybody's like, okay. And nothing's happening. So it was about 2 or 3 days before we had been all over the island, and then we came back to Havana. And it was about 2 or 3 days before we were supposed to be leaving to go back to Jamaica, because we had to sneak into Cuba at that point. So we went to Canada, Jamaica, and then Cuba. And our passports didn't reflect the fact that we went to Cuba. We just went in. And we went around, we performed, because we were actually doing a television program for Canadian Broadcasting in Cuba. On Harry's, because we went to Jamaica, we did a thing in his hometown, but then Harry and Fidel, Harry has always supported Fidel because of the expulsion of the capitalists. I'm not versed on all of the particulars of politics, So we went to Cuba. 2 or 3 days before we were supposed to come back, I hadn't gotten to Guanabacoa left, and Madrina had said, go to Guanabacoa. So I gotta go to Guanabacoa. I don't care what y'all are doing. I gotta go to Guanabacoa. So I don't speak Spanish, but I speak French. So there was one brother, one of the drummers that I was hanging out with, that spoke French. So he and I would converse. Finally, nobody from the promoter, anybody was organizing. He said, look, we're going to Guanabacoa, so we got a cab. And he and I got in the cab, and we went to Guanabacoa. Going to Guanabacoa is like going from Brooklyn to the Bronx. It's like that kind, it's like an hour, maybe an hour in this cab. And I don't know where I'm going. So we went get to Guanabacoa, and all of the houses are the old Spanish houses, and we're walking around. We don't have an address.
Yeah.
We're just walking around in Guanabacoa. Do you know La Becqueria? Do you know La Becqueria? And some people didn't know. Some people could direct us to the neighborhood. So finally we got in the neighborhood, and somebody said, go to that house. We got there, knocked on the door, and a big dude like you opened the door. Knocked on the door, big dude like, what you want? Yeah. Yes. So he explained who I was. The Cuban brother explained who I was. He closed the door and he disappeared. About 5 minutes later, this little lady comes to the door. She opens the door, she doesn't know either of us. And the brother that I was with explained to her who I was. And the minute he said, Iyalosha, her whole face changed. She said, come in. It turns out they were in the middle of an ocha. So we went into the house. They took me upstairs. They had finished the ocha. It was the first day. They had finished the ocha because they were going to have the toke the next day. The ocha was on the floor with all of the ashes. They sat me down. You want something to eat? They gave me some. I was home. It was like home. It was home. I had found a home in Cuba just because of the Ocha family. They gave me something to eat. I had a little traveling legba that I traveled in my pocket. They gave me some rum. I took my legba out to give them some rum. They took my legba from me and put it on the floor with those. Wow. Gave me something to eat. So then they said, we're having a toke tomorrow. You have to come. And I couldn't come because we had a rehearsal or a concert or something. There was no way that I could be there. So I expressed my regrets. And then, Lala said, anytime you're in Cuba, you're home. And before I left, she brings out Suntas Tabo. And I didn't have Ocha at the time, and I'm like, okay. And it's like I got the Holy Grail, right? And I took that, and I put that in my suitcase. No, I put that in my carry-on bag. It was never away from me. And that was the first time that I realized that she didn't have her itabo. And man, when she saw her, she had no idea that I was bringing it. She just said, go see Lala. And I brought her, man, that was one of the proudest days of my life to be able to do something for somebody that had done so much for me, Yeah, Lala Becqueria. Wow. Wow.
Each and I used to walk the Suntas every Saturday. Bring her flowers or Florida water, sit and help us string of that things. That time, Richie, Mama Baby, Sonny Morgan, Stephanie, Dawn, her sister, cousin Tiny, belonged to the house. Barbara Morgan, they all belonged to the house at that time. I was on Simpson Street.
Yeah.
And E.G., myself, and Iyalosha, that lives in Florida now, were initiated, got our luckies together. It was thundering, raining that night, and she bathed us in that bathtub, in that cold bathroom at Simpson Street, and we paid $25 for our luckies.
That was something very interesting because Alfred Davis said that Sunta set the price for the Dilogun reading, but in Cuba, the Dilogun reading was a U.S. silver dollar and 5 cents, not a U.S. paper dollar and 5 cents. And he said that I guess that U.S. silver dollar was probably worth about $12 U.S. And so because she set it to be $1.05, he felt that the quality of life of the priest could have been better if it was higher. But Sunta really was the pioneer and the innovator, and so it sat there for years.
But you know the thing about Sunta, even though she did your little reading, she didn't really know who was Olympia. That's focus.
Ache.
The thing for me the thing for me in the whole mix that I remember, both from Sunta and from Pancho, right? Sunta used to say to me, "This is your religion. This is your religion." And it was always a feeling, it always gave me a feeling that I was not going to get somebody else's tradition. I was not going, you know, it would, from my studies, I had recognized that the Orisha tradition started in Nigeria and had come to Cuba, and the way the Cubans were doing it was their way of doing this African tradition. That was understanding that I had just on my own from the things I had read and things I had heard. But that's what I remember her saying to me. This is your, and she said it on many occasions, this is your religion, this is your religion. And that kind of set the tone for my whole attitude towards the practice of this tradition, you know. Looking at, okay, what's done, and it opened my eyes up, you know, to see, okay, Lucumi is the way the Orisha tradition is practiced in Cuba. Candomblé is the way the Orisha tradition is practiced in Brazil, etc., etc., etc. Because even with the drummers you talk about, Sonny and Richie and even Julito, I just realized in the last few years, you know, people know Julito as the father, one of the fathers of Afro-Cuban drumming here. But what a lot of people don't realize is that Julito came here with Catherine Dunham. And coming here with Catherine Dunham, he and Francisco were not only playing Cuban music with Catherine, they were playing Haitian music with Catherine. They were playing Brazilian music with Catherine. And matter of fact, Taiwo has photographs of Julito playing accompaniment for Moses Mians. So that says to me that as Julito went forward with what he was doing here, he was informed. It wasn't like he was just steeped in the Cuban tradition. He was informed by his participation in the Haitian tradition, in the Brazilian tradition, and in the Nigerian tradition, because Moses was the master drummer of the ashiko. And Julito was playing accompaniment for Moses. So that means he had to know that tradition. He couldn't just play anything. So, you know, when you think about Julito and all that he was and all, you know, he was informed by all of those things. And to me, that's very significant because what happens here is that there's a much more inclusive attitude and practice. It's not just one branch of the tradition. All of the branches of the tradition, the Nigerian branch, the Cuban branch, the Haitian branch, the Brazilian branch, all came together here in a way that they have not done any place else in the world. No place else in the world. And I think that is really significant.
Don't you think that the Creator has purpose?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Everybody has their role to play. And when you think about it, everybody, Nigeria had and has its role to play. Cuba had and has its role to play. Brazil had and had, because you can talk about, what happened in Cuba, but you can talk about Menininya in Brazil. And Menininya, you think about Menininya and the things that she was doing in the face of the oppression by the government in Brazil is very similar to what was going on in Cuba during the time of persecution, and it's very similar to what was going on in Baba Serge and the pioneers in this country. And once you understand the history of the tradition as it exists on the planet, and what happened in Haiti, Toussaint and them, look what, they actually, engaged the tradition to get the independence. It's a whole lot bigger than most people.
That's it. The colonial world has never forgiven the Haitian people
Absolutely.
for overthrowing the
Absolutely.
corrupt
Absolutely.
French government.
Hence the conditions in Haiti today.
Absolutely.
Hence the conditions in Haiti today. Absolutely.
And we think about the history and how it all came about coming into the religion and how the religion is, like you said, it was and it is transforming in Cuba, in Nigeria, in Brazil, in Haiti, and here in the United States as well. But there's so many things in terms of that transformation that's going on that, differentiates the tradition and the culture. And basically that's what we're talking about, the culture, because I know I had spoken before, I said that sitting down with David Coleman, when we talked about the tradition of the African religion as we practice it, that the tradition is, and of course it has a little change in terms of ritual, in terms of ceremony, but in terms of practice here, there's so many different elements that's going on, the stimuli that's going on in terms of the transformation right here, and how we today, the difference is how we today worship as opposed to how it was back in the 60s, how it was back, before coming into the United States. It's a continuous change. And one of the things that I was always, one of the things that I talked about in terms of tradition was with education and with a lot of new people are learning about the religion in schools. And many of them are coming in with new ideas about changing the tradition. Actually, what it is changing the culture. And I'm wondering how is that impacting on how we practice now and how it's being, given to those people that are coming after us. A lot of these young people are coming in with so many new ideas that they're hearing about and they're learning about. And again, a lot of the keys, a lot of the meat has been lost with the people who have the religion that passed on, and they haven't given us many of the keys.
Well, one of the things, like, especially for me, having come up from the church, when I made the transition from church to research, I believe that I carry a lot of the values and insights that I had in the church with me, because to me, it's all about God. So whatever path you choose to get to God is a path that's going to be comfortable for you. Okay, so being that I come up in the church and now I'm doing what I'm doing now, is that I find some people that are so-called traditionalists, like for instance, they talk about how they hate Jesus and how they hate this and how they hate that. But when you really study, you find out that it's all the same thing.
Exactly.
You know, so the change that comes as far as what I feel and what I see is more mindset than material set. Because it's a certain approach that you take based on how you came up. You know, if you're a spiritual person, you already, before you get to Orisha, you already have a format of spirituality. So now that you're embracing something new, that format don't go away. You just find a way to gel those things together and follow the new tradition. So what I try to do with my godchildren is stick to the line. What Sulta gave me, this is what we do. I don't deviate, I'll never deviate. So in terms of new things that are coming, it doesn't have an effect on what we do because we follow the line.
Yeah, and that's very important too when we're talking about the lines.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what I find, and I found over the years, is that many of those lines cross over when you talk about, you know, who your godparent is and then who your Ajabona is. And a lot of times that I found lately, and it could be because there's so many of us coming into the religion, you know, and coming within the African American community. You know, you may have a godparent that is within this particular line, and then your Ajabona may be coming from another
apologize
line.
for being
And
late.
as they come together,
Is that y'all daddy? Is that y'all daddy?
Yes, it is.
Hey, Footy,
How you doing?
No, wait a minute, baby.
It's very
Wait.
important. How do you feel?
Fine, how are
I
you?
love to see you.
That's my baby.
I got my mark.
Batala. Oshanla. He was double O Batala.
Oh, that's
No.
right.
He was double O Batala.
All right, well, I'll see what I can do. All right.
And I received knife from him.
Well, that's congratulations. That's the old time way to keep it in your house.
Okay.
It's nice.
which was one of the things we were talking about just before you came, we were talking about the houses and how tradition is such that we try and keep it within the line so that when, you know, other influences come in, how does that impact on, you know, how the religion seems to be transforming. But one of the things that I brought up was that I found that there are people who are being initiated by their godparent who might be in one particular line, but then they have an Ajabona that may be coming from another line. And that information that, you know, there's like somewhat of a crossing over because you're learning from both. And you may be adopting some of the things that are going on within that house specifically, you know, from both houses. So there seems to be there may be some type of change and transformation in terms of being able to keep to tradition as opposed to the culture.
Maybe I should start by introducing myself. I know some of you, but not all of you. My name is Willie Ramos. I grew up in Brooklyn too. I was Orlando Ramos' son. For those of you that might remember me as a kid, I remember you.
Play for you. Play at your house all the time.
That's right. I remember you. I saw you when I walked in. Right. Right now, I'm doing two things at the same time. I'm working on I want to begin writing. I say begin because this is a project that has no end. The history of the Lucumi / Yoruba people on the other side of the Atlantic. And I think that's an important project, and I think it needs to be written and it needs to be stated from our perspective. You know, as part of my project, I'm looking at the different diasporas that take place, right? Because there's the African diaspora to the New World, but then there's the different diasporas: Cuba to the U.S., Cuba to Spain, Cuba to Mexico, right? Brazil, blah blah blah, and how all of these different diasporas affect the evolution of the religion here in New York in particular. I was telling Keith, and I spoke with Sabrina as well, who said she was going to come here.
She said she can't make it.
She can't make it.
She had something, that was her, I just called her. She had an abode that she forgot she had to do.
Okay. So to me, the African American community and the Puerto Rican community were extremely important in the initial years. Why? Because they were the first communities of contact, right? The first people to travel to Cuba to be ordained were Puerto Rican, and the second group of non-Cubans were African Americans. So these two communities are extremely important in the development of this religion and the different trajectories that it takes here in the US in particular, and especially in New York. So I wanted to meet with some of the elders, some of the people ordained in the 60s, get your perspective, get your understanding, your take from that era, from that time period, and whatever you'll be willing to share with me. So if you don't mind, so I can get everybody's name, I'd like to start with you and work my way around the room. You want to be first or no?
Why don't we go by age?
Ocha age, okay.
Ocha age, yeah. That's the tradition.
He's the elder. That's Yumiko.
Oh, you're Clarence.
Yes.
Okay, I've heard a lot about you.
I hope it's all good.
Thus far.
Thus far.
All good.
You're Clarence?
Yes.
And your last
Clarence Issue Robbins.
Robbins. And you were the one that was made with Ed, right?
I wasn't made with Ed. I was made in Matanzas in 1961. Ed, I came down on the plane to Matanzas, or on the bus, I should say, with Serge. Serge and I went down. He was the Ajibona for me. My padrino was Ogunio B.
Your godfather's name again?
Ogunio B.
Ogunio B.
Ogunio B.
My padrino.
The same one that made Serge.
Same one who made Serge the year before I came down.
Do you know his full name?
Who?
Ogunio B?
Mario Bourgeois.
Mario Bourgeois.
Mario Bourgeois. Yeah, it's a very interesting thing. He was a one-eyed dog catcher in Matanzas. He had one eye. He had a wound. And he had made 2 years before that, before I got made, he had initiated Chris Oleana. Chris Oleana then came down later with Ed James. Roughly,
And Marie.
Anne Marie?
Yeah.
Yes. And he was supposed to give Ed James to Padrino, to Ogunio B. But he didn't. He went to Havana and found another Padrino for the initiation. And that made a big scandal. And I was told never to have anything to do when I go back to New York. Have nothing to do with Chris Oleana. And that was how that happened.
What day were you ordained? 1961. What month and date?
September.
September what?
I'm 80 years old, so I can't remember everything.
No problem. No problem.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. Do you remember who your oriate was?
I used to know those names so easy, and they got away from me.
You were made in Matanzas proper, or
Matanzas proper.
was it Mayito?
Mayito. You got it. Mayito.
So you were made by Ogunio B and Serge in Matanzas in 1961.
Yeah.
So you were then the third person ordained.
I was the third American, you might say.
Okay, that we know of anyway, at least,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And as I said before you came, I think something like, there must have been at least 300 people showed up for, after I was presented to the Batak. 300 people came down in Holland, and I couldn't. All they kept telling me is, you go, you walk, look down, don't look up. And I had to keep my head down like this. But the whole ceremony was very beautiful because they sang, it was like grand opera. They sang that song for the world. That one for Baliwo. I get chills every time I think of it. A line of people that I walked past. There must have been 100 on each side with Baliwo. That should be on Broadway, that whole episode.
I don't think we can put it on Broadway in today's day.
It would be more real than the stuff they do have.
Let me ask you something, Clarence, since we mentioned Ogunjobi. Was he directly from Fermina, or was he a descendant of Fermina?
That's an interesting question. I don't know.
Okay,
But I come from the house of Femenina Gomez.
Right. Okay, I'm not sure if he was made by Fermina or if he was her grandson, and I'm trying to find out with the people in Matanzas, because I work in that community. I've been going back and forth for 15 years now working with them, and especially with the Arara people. They're all there in Simpson, you know, in the area of Simpson. But no one can tell me who exactly Ogunjobi was, and I'm trying to figure that out. I haven't been Alfredo Calvo, which is probably one of the elders there, does not remember exactly who he was, so I need to look into that a little further to find out who this individual was. Mayito's dead. Mayito's gone already. His son is on another wave. He's on another level at this stage. He made Ifa, and his direction is totally different. But it's interesting. As soon as I do get to the root of that, I most definitely will let everybody know, because I know there are a number of people trying to find out who he was, and I've had conversations with a number of people from the community.
Remember, you don't just stick with the Lucumi crowd. Go over to the people who are into Nanico, because he was at that time.
Okay. I'm quite sure Alfredo has to know him, but Alfredo has a similar problem, and on top of that, he's got another problem that's affecting his memory. So, you know, it's that elbow thing. But at some point, I'll get to the bottom of that. You have another relative, Pedro Galu, who also has a Ganyu, who was a witness to the initiation. And I've spoken with him a lot, but he doesn't remember. This is going to be important, the name.
Oh, he doesn't remember the name.
Doesn't remember the name. They're old already, but we'll play it by ear. So we'll continue talking. And who's next in?
My godfather was Shango Ilali, Edward James. My madrina was Asuka.
When were you made, Madrina? When were you made?
1965, August the 15th.
Who would be next time?
You ever say anything else about your Ocho?
About my
We were already speaking at
No,
Stephanie.
that's my business. That's a mini negocio. My experiences, they've all been beautiful. Was the best thing I ever did in this incarnation. Love it. The good, the bad, and the indifference. I have no complaints about Orisha. Now, Orisha people is something else again.
Of course.
And I don't mix the two. Don't mix the two up. One is what it is, and the other is what it ain't. I'm dealing with Orisha.
That's right. So I'm next, and I'm from 1968. I'm the first Yamanja of the Pacific Ocean. I was made by Polo Lino Apolinar Gonzalez.
Okay.
And my Ajibona is Omaida Victores, the wife of Armandito.
Your name is?
Okay, oh, that's interesting. Omile Foon.
You're Beverly. No, Janetta.
Who is Beverly?
Janetta.
You remember
Who's
Beverly?
Beverly?
Beverly was the godchild of Chris also.
Ah,
Beverly
okay.
was the Yamaja
Right.
that Christopher made into.
Yes,
That's
okay.
Beverly.
Okay.
You're Janetta, your last name?
Okay, I'll tell you what it is. My name is Reverend Harriet Johnetta Hagins. And the reason why is that I have a presence on the internet When they Google me, I have a presence. And I am the second founder of Sun Church, and we call it sunchurch.us. And my Ocha name is Omilefun, which is also the same name of Obanyoko's sister Laura Omilefun. And so that helped us, both of us, Beatrice and myself, to understand something about what my name meant, because she saw Laura. She saw, and she explained to me Laura. So that helped me.
What they call it? Extinto diferente.
Right, right.
Distinto diferente.
Right?
La distinto diferente.
Right, la distinto diferente.
Laura. So what happened is, because of this church, and I've been trying to get a lot of people ordained in the church, and I want the church to be the foundation of us in New York City to be united and to keep the Ocha going properly. If you look at Beatrice and you look at SUB, Clarence Robbins, these people, I'm sorry, you're not SUB, I'm sorry. Okay, there's a difference between the people that were made the real Cuban style, one of which is myself. Okay, we are stronger than other people. Okay, we're stronger than other people. We came out of the thing that was made out of barro. I say that in Spanish. We come from the jar. We come from going to the place we're supposed to be. My initiation started in Lax. Okay, they put the masa on me. They took me straight to the ocean. And this is how it's supposed to be done. If it's Ogun, they are to go to the mountain. And Oshun, we have freshwater streams where we live that they are to go to, because the Hudson River is an estuary and it is salt water all the way up to West Point, to Albany. See, and that means a lot to him, that means a lot to you. Now I want to talk about Beatrice's initiation.
Okay.
Okay,
You
this
don't get it
man,
whether you wanted it or not.
this man, what happened with Ed James, I was a friend of his and I used to walk with him all the time. He studied every religion. Now, we could say Shango people sometimes they could be devilish, but when it came to her, she was just the most precious baby of his. He loved her very much in the correct way that a godfather should love a goddaughter. And he made sure there was everything. He brought aches, he brought palos, he brought everything, all of the brushes, everything that's needed to do it correctly. And whoever was made before, the devil with them, because they didn't get it like you did. In the morning, he would get up, and he was not a morning man. And he would do everything for her that an Ajibona should do, because Santa was older, and everything was absolutely gorgeous, perfect, and holy. The priests that were there were in the true tradition, and everything was done in the correct tradition. And how I know, I could look in the Ocha room, I heard this, I heard that, I heard English, I heard Spanish, okay? And my little job was to wash the dishes, okay? And I'm in love with the actual tradition. It should not fail. All of the herbs should be there, like they were for her. Some of the herbs we picked. It's not like, well, it's out in the store, let's use ivy, or let's go in the park or something like that. No, some of the herbs we picked, and we brought them there. And all of the aches they had, just like, I'll tell you who else had all of the aches, was the lady Nelida Owotolu. And her husband was my godbrother, this man, Juan Candelo. Juan Candelo. And so he knew that we were brother and sister after I was made. But before, I was trying to be made with her. And Edward told her, do you have the aches? She brought out a shoebox full of aches. And even though I wasn't made, I saw them. Okay, I saw the indigo die. Okay, I saw some other red stuff that they were putting onto orishas, that orishas were soaking in front of Orishas, that's the correct way to do it. All of the anger and all the problems I've ever had in this religion with anybody, and I won, and he's won, okay, because we're made right, okay, has been on if the herbs are correct. Are we calling the correct names of the people? Are we calling all of the Orishas that we can? This is what we must do. We come from a high, holy, very sacred tradition. Most of us are the descendants and the Ocha of basically the same house. You know, Feminita Gomez, the other lady that they call Fuche. Yes, and Fuche. So I'm not going to say, that's another thing. I'm not going to say Ofunche and say that's the road. No, I talked with enough Orietes that they told me that Ofunche was a lady and that she was giving out Orishas. These are the things that are the differences. And the religion for it to live and be real and for everybody to be whole and healthy and totally sane, all right? We've got to do it the right way. That's all I have to say.
What day were you made?
Oh, March 9th.
March 9th.
And you know, Obebe Pete Panabad was ahead of me. He was made in January '68, and then I came in March.
Obebe Pete what?
Pete Panabad.
That's a step.
Obebe. And then they used to say, Obebe doesn't have many feathers left, because his name means the fan of Obatala.
Oh, Abebe, okay.
Yeah.
And he was made by Paul also.
No, he was made by Diego Rodriguez. Bebo. Do you have his phone number by any chance?
No, but that shouldn't be difficult to find. I can get it for you. We can talk about that later.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bebo, and who was his Oyibona, do you know?
Wait a minute. I don't know. I don't want to lie. I think it was Polo, but I don't know.
Okay. So Bebe was 1967 maybe?
1968, no. January 1968, and then me, March 1968.
Okay.
March 9th, 1968.
And who was your earlier day?
Polo did it.
Polo did it himself?
I know.
Okay.
You know, I've seen a lot of that, but I didn't want to say anything bad, and I couldn't talk. I was a Yahweh. They always say that the Godfather's not supposed to be the Oriente. But he was the oldest one, and he was very knowledgeable, and he was Obatala, so the blood of Ocha spoke. That's his name, Ochegwege. So that's what happened.
So who follows you now in 68, 69, what year? Oh, there you go.
In August 69, Rosa and Facunda.
Rosie and Facundo.
Yes. In August, not that same 68 August, that's what I thought, but I had a chance to talk with Facundo, it was 69 August.
And they were made by Polo Viejo.
Right, yes.
Yeah, Rosie's in Miami now.
She's in Miami.
Oh, that's good
She
to
came
know.
down to Miami.
Their leg, but she was so nice, and Facundo made Ifa.
Facundo made Ifa?
Yes, yes. That's my
So I guess.
brother. That's kids, brothers.
So you're next, right?
My Christian name is Bob Willie Ramos.